looks like we are live. Got the Raiders tumbler ready to go. All right, welcome to Scout Team Sports. I am your host, Devalian, and this is our first live stream. And I am struggle streaming, but I'm hoping I'm doing everything right. So I got my trusty laptop here. Checking everything out here. Technical difficulties. Save, highlight, share. So we are talking about, first of all, welcome to Scout Team Sports. I am your host, Devalian. We are struggle streaming for the first time, but we're getting it in. I appreciate everybody for rocking with me. This podcast is sponsored by my other YouTube channel, Devalian Scents. Anytime you are inquiring about fragrances, men's fragrances, I would say head on over to Devalian Scents, my other YouTube channel, for any tips on wearing fragrances, men's cologne. Focus just on the men right now. That's my specialty, and that's what I like as well. But we are getting into it, transferring from the just audio podcast, and now we're going to YouTube. This is the first live stream, and we're getting it going. So, going to be talking about, let's see here. So far we are live. And if we are talking about all right, guys, we're still doing the whole checking on here. First live stream, bear with me. First live stream. Got it. Okay, so we're finally into a 6 minutes into the live stream. Okay, so welcome again to Scout Team Sports. I am your host, Devalian, and this is going to be the first of many podcasts now on YouTube, getting off just the audio on the platform, which was Anchor, now known as Spotify for podcasters. So getting off of there, wanted to grow the fan base and just be more visible. And so now getting on YouTube with revamping this channel that I have as far as Scout Team Sports, formerly Devalian Sports, but now Scout Team Sports Podcast. And we are rolling. So apologize for the first 6 minutes, but we are getting it going now with the rest of this episode. We're going to be on live every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and feel free to replay these podcasts anytime that you so choose. And so again, got the trusty laptop right here. We got a little bit of sports memorabilia right here. Yes, this is my team through the sad times and the crushed times and what we're going through right now. But yeah, this was given to me by a very special person, as well as got the coaster right there, you know. And then when I do get a mouse, we got the mouse pad right there. Look at that right there. So we are a little bit sportsy here, ready to go. But we're going to start with the biggest story. Of course, we're knee deep in the preseason right now. Preseason week 2 is popping off. We've got sports. We've got NFL games, preseason games throughout the week. So that's the thing about preseason. Preseason games are liable to be on any day of the week. And I get it. I still don't think it's a good idea, but I get it. And I also think that preseason games are what should be happening when it comes to going overseas. I really don't like the whole playing a season game, a game that really matters, over in Germany or over in, you know, London or something like that. I get that, you know, it's great for, you know, NFL to expand, but if you're thinking about teams and them playing season games that really matter and the jet lag and everything that comes with, you know, the time change and the time difference and sleeping and all that stuff, I would say, why not just do it during preseason? Why not just do it during preseason when your starters really aren't playing that much and it's really not going to affect them too much in terms of the outcomes, and which affects your contract, coaches, which affects, you know, and it's, you know, I get it, it's just, you know, the owners got to make money. I get it, but this would be the opportune time, you know, on random days of the week to have preseason games across the pond. So yeah, I don't get it, but nonetheless, we are in knee deep in the preseason right now. Games have been going on. Game going on yesterday. We got games going on today as well. But in the midst of that, I want to go with the latest information in terms of the latest signing that has sparked a lot of interest because of what they've already done, and that's the New York Jets. So of course, having Aaron Rodgers, but now recently just signing Dalvin Cook to a 1-year deal. Now, you know, the 1-year deal thing is going to be because of he's a running back, number one. Number two, he has an injury history. So you get that part. Do I think that makes him any less valuable? Absolutely not. I still think I'm one of those that's not with the whole, you know, running backs are a thing of the past. Running backs are not needed or they're less valuable. Look, you can't just do the passing game and think that you're going to be successful winning the Super Bowl unless you're Pat Mahomes. He's a unicorn, and I get that all the rules benefit him, but everybody else, literally, you need a running game. Even the Eagles need a running game, and I think that's part of the reason why. Of course, the slippery grass and whatnot, and Jalen Hurts doing too much of the running and not having a true dedicated running game other than Jalen Hurts is part of the reason why things are a little bit tough than they should have been when it came to the Eagles and falling behind. And of course, if it wasn't for that fumble that Jalen Hurts caused himself, I think the Eagles win the Super Bowl. But when it comes to running backs, Dalvin Cook, I think is a very valuable force if he can stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, he should get a couple more years on a deal. Most of the deals now are shorter ever since coming out of the pandemic. Shorter deals, fat money for really small amount of time. You can get a 3-year deal and get the same amount of money that you would get maybe 10 years ago. You would have to sign a 6 or 7 year deal in order to get that same amount of money. Now guys get the same amount of money in 7 years. They can get it for 3 years. And I think that's really all Dalvin Cook is looking for. But he's like, okay, I'll take it here. Because it's with a playoff contending team. And I can't get it to championship contending team just yet because we don't know what the Jets are going to be. But I will say they are playoff contending. If they barely missed the playoffs last year, without Aaron Rodgers and the sketchy quarterback situation that they had, they should be a shoo-in for the playoffs at least. I can't say what seed they're going to be. I can't say, and I'll get to my predictions as we get closer to the start of the regular season for the entire season. Well, we can't really say, what they're going to look like. But you are, when you have star power, you're expecting star expectations or star results. You're expecting star results. So if you have stars, that's what you're expecting. So he is a star. He is a star in terms of running backs. Everybody knows who Dalvin Cook is. Everybody on every other NFL team knows. Every talking media head knows who Dalvin Cook is. So it's not like he's unknown and they're just signing this random running back to a 1-year deal, because I wouldn't be talking about it if it was a random running back, or neither would anybody else. So with the Jets, I think it's going to be crucial that he stays healthy. And if you have that threat of a running game with what Aaron Rodgers can do in the passing game, and their defense is loaded up, you've got Quentin Williams, you've got Sauce, you've got, I would worry a little bit about those linebackers, but I think for the most part, they should be good. A lot of people are touting them as the best defense in the league. I got to see him play a couple of games, and I do mean a couple of games, not just one, to see if they are, the best defense in the league. It's like the whole college football thing when they put out the rankings and whatnot. And the beginning of the season, I'm like, no, you need to wait till about week 5, week 6, week 7 of college football. And then you can start ranking teams and see where they are. This is the number 1 team in the league. This is the number 1 team based on stats, based on who they play, strength of schedule. Okay, right now, this is the number 1 team. So you wait till then. I don't agree with that in terms of the beginning of the season. You're already ranking these college football teams and this whole melting pot of conferences that's happening right now. We'll get into that another time. But just like you can't, it is not fair to judge who's the best team in college football before the season starts. You also really can't judge how good a defense or an offense is going to be before the season starts. I know they're loading up, but to tout the Jets all of a sudden as the best defense in the league right now, I can't say that. I need to see them play. I need to watch them play. I need to see what they do in certain situations depending on who they're facing in the first couple of weeks. We already know week 4 is going to be off the chain because of the new head coach, the new aggressive head coach of the Denver Broncos, Sean Payton, and what he said about the former coach, who is now the offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett, when it comes to the Jets, and who is also like Aaron Rodgers' favorite coach in the world. So, and Aaron Rodgers' comments about that. So you already know week 4 is about to be popping off. That's the one thing about Aaron Rodgers. if you're gonna beat him, I get he's old in age, he's up in age, and he's missed a step here. People say he's missed this, he's missed that. He's not what he used to be. All this other drama off the field, all the media attention, doesn't really translate into him being good. But it's one thing that you don't want to do is give Aaron Rodgers something to play for. If you're gonna beat Aaron Rodgers, you want him to be just, oh, this is just another game in the season. They don't have a chance of winning any getting to the playoffs or anything like that, or maybe it's just early in the season. He really doesn't care because he knows he's Aaron Rodgers and he can rally the team late in the season to get a playoff push. Then in week 4, this is just an AFC matchup. If things don't work out in the first half, maybe mentally, emotionally, he just checks out and then the game is already done. Because once Aaron Rodgers checks out, it's a wrap. The team is done. His team is done. But that's what you want. That's how you beat Aaron Rodgers. He checks out, he just makes a mistake or here, or somebody on the offense makes a mistake, or the defense makes a mistake, and he doesn't feel like he can overcome it. And maybe he can, but maybe he just doesn't want to. Or that's how you beat Aaron Rodgers. You make him mentally check out. But now you're going to add fuel to the fire and try it. And now he's saying something to the effect of something that I've never heard him say, because typically guys that look like him don't say this. Keep my offensive coordinator's name out of your mouth. When you do that, especially for a guy like Aaron Rodgers, you are giving him something to play for. That's his best friend. That's his favorite coach. That's, why would you go after that guy? Especially since, number one, that's the past. There's this whole coaching fraternity thing that they talk about where coaches don't talk bad about other coaches like that. Well, somebody didn't give Sean Payton a memo, obviously, and he'd been around for a long time. So what does that tell you? When it comes to, the whole thing about Bounty Gate and all that stuff. Like, obviously, this dude is a little bit on the edge. He lives on the edge a little bit, so you can't be surprised. I'm really not surprised that Sean Payton said that. I'm not. I'm not surprised that he said that. Whether it's to coddle his quarterback, Russell Wilson, or to show the team that they're aggressive and they're going to be, they want to be painted as the villain for everybody else to come after, and they like the challenge and whatnot. I wouldn't doubt that that's the type of thing that Sean Payton's probably doing. He's like, we got to be the bad guys. We got to be the ones everybody's talking about. We got to be the ones that everybody's hating. And we're going to go, we're big and bad, and let's show up on the field and see who's the baddest. Let's do it. Like, that's his persona. He's got a defense in Denver that can back up what he's talking. But the question is, does he have an offense that can match that? Because if he doesn't have an offense, if he can't get Russell Wilson going, if Russell Wilson's off the field issues are still bothering him, and those who know what I'm talking about, then it really doesn't matter all the trash talk. But I think that's probably what he's going for, because this is Sean Payton. So he is going for, we're big and bad, we're the baddest. They've got a defense, but the Jets have a defense. Now it's about whose offense is better. Right now, I have to go with the Jets offense. You got Aaron Rodgers, you got Dalvin Cook, you've got wide receivers that he can work with. He's got a good number 1 wide receiver, very speedy. As long as that offensive line can hold up, I would give that right now. I know it's week 4 and the regular season hasn't even started yet, but I don't think you give Aaron Rodgers something to play for and he loses. You don't do that. I wouldn't bet against him when it is something he wants to play for. And if it's something that he wants to play for, it's the respect and honor of his favorite coach. The respect and honor of his best friend. You always hear about, through the years, him playing for the Packers, about he didn't get along with this coach. He didn't like this coach. Him and the head coach don't see eye to eye here. Him and this coach don't see eye to eye here. But now you're talking about a coach that he loves, a coach that he wants, a coach that he's had his best years with. You gonna talk about that dude? Nah, Broncos. I don't care how good the Broncos defense is. You give Aaron Rodgers something to play for, he's gonna pick you apart. So yeah, I know it's early and I'm already giving the win to the Jets. But like I said, you don't beat Aaron Rodgers giving him something to play for, especially a whole respect thing about his best friend, his favorite coach. The two guys, their families have had dinner together and all that stuff. You don't do that. So, but Sean Payton is, This is, and that's another thing why I'm surprised about the Broncos as far as this hire. It's like, yeah, he's a successful coach. He has a successful track history, but this just doesn't seem like the Denver Broncos persona. But maybe they want to change. Maybe they want to change in terms of persona. They got to be the aggressive bad guys and whatnot. It's usually been, they're just very good, and they've got, the upscale guys of Peyton Manning and Tim Tebow, somewhat successful a little bit, but they've got John Elway, they've got guys, as far as head coaches, they've had Shanahan, they've had guys that are held in high regard and very pristine. They always say the right thing, they don't say the wrong thing, because they project the wrong things on other teams, like the Raiders, my team. They're the bad guys, they're this, they're that, this is how they talk, they're classless, and they're this and they're that. Now it seems like the Denver Broncos are the classless ones with hiring Sean Payton, because as over aggressive as he is in his persona, that's exactly what you are now. I firmly believe, especially in the NFL, even in college, in college it's more about the head coaches, and in the pros it's more about the players. But the head coach's persona is every bit as part of the team's persona. It's not just the players, even at the pro level. So it's going to be interesting to see if the team can back up Sean Payton's mouth. Can the Broncos back up the aggressive nature and the trash talking of Sean Payton? Because you can retract or redact a statement. You can apologize, quote unquote. Everybody knows it's too late. Nobody accepts apology. Nobody cares about the apology. And I don't doubt that this is going to be the last time that Sean Payton goes off on a tangent like this. Whether it be post game, whether it be pre game, or whether it be, if they were to make the playoffs or something like that, or a critical division rivalry game or something like that, Sean Payton's gonna say something again that's going to be like, that came from a member of the Denver Broncos? Okay. Okay, this is not what I'm used to with the Denver Broncos. This is not usually their persona. I mean, it definitely doesn't mesh well with who their quarterback is, because he ain't a trash talker. Okay. All right, you want the smoke? You want the smoke, Sean Payton? Okay. See what you got. So it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting, but I'm really excited for that, because I want to see Aaron Rodgers tear them apart. Division rival, of course, for me. I always love to see the Broncos go down, but they got to play. But you just don't give Aaron Rodgers something to play for. As far as the projections, I'll get into it more toward the start of the season as I see more preseason games and come to my conclusion. I will, tease that I do think that they're going to make the playoffs. I think the Jets are going to make the playoffs. Like I said, there were times late in the season where, you look at the playoff projection, and based on the schedule or the records, if the playoffs were to end right now, it would show the Jets were sometimes in the 7th seed. They were sometimes in the 6th seed. If the playoffs were to have ended when, at that week where it was like week 12, 13 or something like that. And I think Aaron Rodgers is enough to put them over the top in terms of getting into the playoffs. Where they'll be seated, I don't know. We've got to see. Will they win the division? That's tough. Because now they are in a loaded division, just like you would have thought that the AFC North is the most loaded division. Everybody thought it was going to be the AFC West last year before Russell Wilson did so bad. And now everybody's thinking, oh, it's the AFC North with the Ravens and the Bengals and the Browns and then the Steelers. But I would say this is right up there with them. If you're talking about the actual division, don't compare them to everybody else in the league. Compare them to their division rivals. If you're talking about the caliber of teams in the division against each other, this I could say is probably up there with one of the most competitive divisions in the league, in terms of they talk about the whole fight, the bloodbath, and they just tear each other apart. the most brutal division, because if you think about where their levels are, I would say this division is probably more on par with each other than anybody else in the NFL. The AFC North, it's really going to come down to the Ravens and the Bengals, in my opinion. The Browns are behind there. I don't think they're going to be as good with Deshaun Watson and whatnot. And then the Steelers, to me, are the bottom of the barrel. I don't care if Mike Tomlin is, I get that he's always had, for the most part, a winning record, and you could never count him out, and they could slip up and upset somebody. That's fine. That's wonderful for them, but that doesn't equate to playoffs. That doesn't equate to a division title. And even with an extra seed now, a 7th seed in the playoffs, there's too many other competitive teams in the AFC that I would put before the Steelers. So, no, I mean, the Steelers are going to have a tough time beating the Browns, I believe. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. If they can use George Pickett like they need to, and then, if they use George Pickett like they need to, then, who knows? Maybe they rise up. But George Pickens, I'm sorry. Pickens versus Kenny Pickett. Pickens and Pickett. But that, I mean, they don't have the running game that they used to have. So I'm not like that confident in what people talk about with the Steelers, and they've never been down before. Well, guess what? They're going to be down this year. You're not getting past the Ravens or the Bengals for the division title, and then you've got to compete with so many other teams in the AFC for a playoff seed. And remember, it's really only 3 seeds that they're competing for, because if you're not winning the division title, you're either going to be 5th, 6th, or 7th seed in the playoffs. So if we're already running for any particular team, think about it. For any particular team, if you rule out that they're probably not going to win a division title because there's a team in their division that's much better, then that means they're competing for 3 spots amongst, 3 spots amongst, so every team has a division winner. That's 4 teams. And then there's 3 teams left in every division that are competing for 3 spots. That's 3, 6, 9, 12. So out of 12 teams remaining, if you take whoever you want for the division champions, let's just go through it. AFC West is going to be the Chiefs. AFC North is going to be Ravens or Bengals, in my opinion. And then AFC East is going to be, I would say, it's between the Bills and the Dolphins. I think the Jets will still make the playoffs, but I think it's between the Bills and the Dolphins. And then you go with the AFC South right now. We're just going to say the Jaguars. Everybody else is pretty much down in the dumps. So you got to compete against 12 teams for 3 spots in the playoffs. That's not easy. You really think the Steelers are all of a sudden going to be, they got something because Mike Tomlin's got a 500, he can get a 500 record even with the worst teams. That doesn't mean anything. If you don't make it to the playoffs, I mean, I know the Steelers are they're a unicorn in the sense of, they don't hire and fire that many head coaches. So we ain't talking about job security, but we're talking about making the playoffs and the Steelers actually being a threat like a lot of talking media heads said that they can still be on any given year. No, they can't. No, they're not. If Kenny Pickett continues to develop, okay, he's getting there. I don't think he's going to be there this year. And then, like I said, on top of that, you're not winning the division, so you got to compete against 12 other teams for 3 spots in the playoffs. You can pretty much rule out probably maybe 2 teams per division in every other division who don't have a shot at making the playoffs. I don't think the Raiders or the Broncos are going to make it. I think it's going to be Chiefs and Chargers again. I don't think, the AFC East might get in 3 teams again. It might be the Bills, the Dolphins, and the Jets. The AFC South would probably just be the Jaguars, maybe the Titans, you don't know. And then AFC North, Ravens and Bengals. Like how, if one wins the division, the other one's going to get in the playoffs. Come on now. The Steelers ain't got no shot. So they really, I don't buy into what people are saying about the Steelers. You never know. The Steelers, they could upset that. Okay, you upset somebody for one game that makes you a playoff contender? No. Anyway, so when it comes to the Jets, yeah, it's going to be interesting. With the whole thing about them not wanting to be on the spot, not wanting the media attention. I'm like, how do you not want the media attention or try to shy away from it? You're the New York Jets. You're in New York, East Rutherford, New Jersey. At this point, we just combine them and say they're the same state for football. For football's sake, I was well early on in my days of looking at sports and watching sports. They're in East Rutherford, New Jersey, but they call themselves the New York Jets, and I'm done. During football season, New York, the state of New York, and New Jersey are one state. Okay, let's just go ahead and accept it because they're not going to change. I would prefer them to be called the New Jersey Jets and the New Jersey Giants because they don't play in New York. The only team that plays in New York is the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo, New York. But we're just going to let it be. We're just going to do it. We'll do it. Fine. Go ahead. So during football season from, we'll say late August. No, we'll just say September. Forget preseason. September through December, January, New York and New Jersey are the same state. You are the same state. Congratulations. I've officially dubbed you New York, New Jersey for the months of September through January. You are one state for the sake of football. You're welcome. Hey, all right. So we're getting on into other stories. Like I said, other preseason games are going awry, have gone awry yesterday as well as today. When it comes to the rest of the league, the biggest stories, I do want to touch on Washington Commanders and how they picked Sam Howell as their starting quarterback. I mean, I get that, but look, it's tough. It's tough. I like Ron Rivera as a head coach. I always have. But Taylor Heinicke, I just, and I get that Taylor Heinicke. First of all, let me just go through this here because I want to read this. For NFL.com, Rivera noted that he wanted to wait until after joint practices with the Baltimore Ravens to name Howell the starter. The news comes after Rivera declined to name Howell the starter earlier in the week, saying that he needed to discuss it with offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy. And that's another thing with Eric Bieniemy being the new offensive coordinator. And now this is going to, move forward. I really think, things not going well with Taylor Heinicke, or is it Taylor or Tyler? I always get them mixed up. But not going well with Heinicke and wanting to for him to be with the team and be the starter. After keeping this team afloat, I really think that they should have worked with him. I really think that they should have kept him, worked with him, and just kept him the starter, worked with him. And I think that he could have emerged because to me, he was the leader of that team. He was the heart of that team with them going through all the different quarterback controversies and stuff. So I was like, why in the world why are you changing? And I mean, Sam Howell, it's like, that, I don't get it. I don't get it. But nonetheless, they're naming Sam Howell as their starting quarterback. Let me just look that up here. So for Taylor, so for him, I just, okay, now he's a backup in Atlanta. I get that part, them letting him go and then moving on. But I really think they should have kept him. I really think that they should have kept him there and worked with him, developed him to move forward. Yeah, seems like maybe he has a better shot as a starting quarterback. He's got to compete with Desmond Ridder in Atlanta. But, Desmond Ridder being a third round draft pick, that's who they handpicked. I don't think he's going to get it past Desmond Ridder as becoming a starter. But yeah, I saw flashes of really goodness as far as him rallying the team with what he had to work with. And but most teams, they want a guy that they handpick. Taylor Henneke, I think he was there before Ron Rivera got there. So, but yeah, he's now with Atlanta. But I just thought that was like, I just thought that was something that I was like, I don't get why you guys are doing that. They should have, to me, given him a chance. They should have given him a chance. But with the Falcons signing him to a 2-year contract worth up to $20 million, that's another thing when it comes to him and Desmond Ridder. It's like, well, you can't pay a guy $10 million a year and he's not starting. They're saying that they've added a veteran presence to their quarterback room. But if you add a veteran presence for 2 years, $10 million, and you've got Desmond Ridder as a rookie, I mean, not as a rookie, but hasn't started a full season yet since they drafted him, and you're not paying him that much, why would you sign Heineke for that much money if you're not going to start him? And if you're not going to start, if you're going to start him, it's like, okay, well, you've had Desmond Ridder on the bench for how many years now? And he, that you drafted in the 3rd round a couple years ago, and you're not going to start him. It seems like a Packers situation with Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love. It's like, well, what are you guys doing? Pick which way you're going to go. If you're going to ride with a rookie, then you sign a veteran quarterback like Taylor Heineke to a lesser deal, like 2 years, $20 million, $10 million a year. You could say that's a going rate, but and starting quarterbacks are more, superstar quarterbacks in the league are getting much more than that. I get it, but I don't know. To me, that puzzles who's going to be the starter really, and it's like either way, it seems like it's a wrong move for them. It's like you clearly want to put one as the starter, and that's evident by what you're paying that person, what you're giving them as far as reps with the first team, with the starters. So all that stuff has to align. But if you've got a rookie quarterback who you eventually want to see what he's really got, and it's hard to do it just with preseason games only, and then you want to bring in a veteran who you could say he's going to be on the bench, but just in case, but then you got somebody on the bench making $10 million, and then you don't start him. But then if you do start him, then it's like, well, what did you draft Desmond Ridder for a couple years ago? So I don't know. It's in, for organizations like the Falcons, who haven't been back to prominence since that year that they lost to Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, these are the types of decisions that happen. When they're not consistent, you're not consistently a contender, consistently making the right moves to make yourself a contender. I get it. Sometimes it just, there's a slump. The Chiefs were bad for how long? Could never get things together, and now all of a sudden they got that right quarterback, and now they're consistently championship contenders. I get it, but it just seems like, it's like, why would you do that? To me, that sends confusion in the locker room. And I get that was a while ago that they did that, but obviously, that I think that there's a little bit of controversy there. So I would say, well, why are you doing that? Now, if you could see, as you saw earlier in this live episode, if you're watching live, or if you could decide to watch this later on, I'd appreciate it either way. You could see that I am a Raiders fan, but that is something I'm trying to avoid talking about, because if I do that, you will not hear about anything else in the NFL. You won't. You will not hear about anything else in the NFL if I start talking about the Raiders. When I start talking about the Raiders, I have to be precise, or else I will go off on a tangent. And then you'll not want to watch anymore. So I'm trying to incorporate everybody. This is for everybody, okay? So we're going to cover the NFL. This is for everybody. We're going to get into the NBA. When we get to the NBA, more so halfway through the season, most of football season is over. We'll start dabbling a little bit into the NBA, and we'll pick up full-time with the NBA once the NFL leaves off. But for right now, NFL, and we're going to mix in some college football. I'm trying to keep it to where, because I could go in, I don't like what they're doing. I don't like us being the Las Vegas Patriots. I'm trying to curb myself, because I could go in. But, okay. So like I said, I don't like us being the Las Vegas Patriots. We're hiring all these ex-Patriots to run the team and play for the team. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't understand what Josh McDaniels, I'm trying to keep this nice. I don't understand what Josh McDaniels is trying to do, because it doesn't seem like he's working. And again, this seems like the ultimate, cliche, but some things that are cliche are true. Some things that are cliche are not. Some things that are cliche are true. Just because you're a really good offensive coordinator does not mean you make a great or good head coach. I think that's the thing with Josh McDaniels. Plus, you have to realize, what has he done without Tom Brady? Now, if any team has Tom Brady in his prime, yes, they're going to look great. But once you don't have a great quarterback, what do? And now you're the head coach, and now you're handpicking who you want to lead your team. So now it's up to you to develop your quarterback. And I get that's why he didn't really want Derek Carr. But now he gets Jimmy Garoppolo. He didn't really go after a quarterback in the draft. So now it's like, okay, well then what is it that and don't tell me that if he gets somebody in the 4th or 5th round or something like that, that's him going after court. No, that's just getting depth. If you're going after a quarterback, a new guy to lead your team, you're getting him no later than the 3rd round. And even the 3rd round, I'm kind of like, If you're talking about a quarterback to lead your team and there are quarterbacks available, you're trading up in the 1st round, or you know that there's a diamond in the rough that'll probably drop to the 2nd round and you're picking him up then. They didn't do that. They went with injury-prone Jimmy Garoppolo, ex-Patriot Jimmy Garoppolo, who we don't find out. I'm pretty sure Josh McDaniels knew, and Ziegler, the GM, knew, who's also an ex-Patriot. I'm pretty sure they knew. But nobody else, it was revealed to anybody else that Jimmy Garoppolo had a foot injury and needed surgery before he got signed. Because they knew the backlash that would have occurred if they was like, oh, we're thinking about signing Jimmy Garoppolo. Sources, sources close to me have said that the Raiders are trying to sign Jimmy Garoppolo before it actually happened. But he's got an injury. He's got a toe injury. The backlash would have been immense. Why are you hiring this guy who's got a foot injury? So they kept it quiet until after they knew that he was going to be on the team. And now pretty much the media, everybody, Raider fans, and especially that locker room would just have to deal with it because he's here now. Oh, he's here now. We're not getting any other quarterback. This is our quarterback for the next 3 years, whether he's injured or not. Because, I mean, what are you going to do if he gets hurt again? Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt again, the season's done. So don't expect to see him much at all during the preseason. And so we'll just hope that once the regular season starts that he's good to go. Oh, he went to a Super Bowl. You know that when the Niners went to a Super Bowl with him, that was because of running game and defense. And running game and defense had them in the lead. They were going to beat the Chiefs. But they all of a sudden wanted to start, let's do Jimmy Garoppolo. Let's air it out. What are you doing when you had the game secure with running game and defense? You didn't have to go past Happy. I don't care if it was third down. I don't care if it was third and long. I trust the Niners running game at that time more than the passing game on any down. What are you doing? That's another story. But nonetheless, we are getting back into it. Appreciate all of you for watching. Again, this is Devaluing with Scout Team Sports. We are transitioning from Anchor audio only, and I had to get relocated, get into a new spot, and I've got my own spot now, so we can do this every Saturday freely. Every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Pacific time, we will be on for Scout Team Sports. Like I said, covering mostly the NFL, a little bit of college football, and then we'll get to the NBA toward the halfway mark of the NBA season, because it is a much longer season. I'll be tracking it, but also it's going to be football heavy on this podcast. And so we'll get into it a little bit with college football. So this whole thing that's going on, like I said, we already talked about how I don't agree with the whole thing about ranking teams before the season starts. You need to have a couple of teams, a couple of games first before you start ranking them. But now with all these TV contracts and the money and this melting pot of all these teams leaving their conferences and going to join into two conferences that are the big powerhouses. So it seems like everybody is leaving their conferences, going into the SEC and the Big Ten. Why don't we just have, and make it like the NBA, Eastern Conference, Western Conference, or make it like a Northern Conference, Southern Conference, or just two conferences, I guess. But I'm just saying that because it seems like if we don't have any other choices, that's where we're going to have to go. You can't have these two mega conferences and then all these little itty bitty conferences. Like, what are we doing? And then, with the Pac-12, you can't call them. I've never agreed with that. Even when the Big Ten had more than 10 teams. If the Big Ten had more than 10 teams, they're not the Big Ten. If the Big 12 have less than 12 teams, they're not the Big 12. Now, the conferences, maybe the conferences just don't matter. I've said that about the NBA as well, because when they get to the playoffs, the conferences don't really matter. I mean, the divisions don't really matter when it comes to the seeding. So why are we, doing it where in college football, why are we doing it where the conference, they want to make it seem like the conferences matter when they really don't? If you're merging everybody's leaving for TV contracts. So it's like you're messing up the integrity of the game. I'm not going to call myself a purist when it comes to football or college football purist, because I understand how the game goes. I understand business. I understand all of that. But you have to have a balance somewhere. You have to have a balance somewhere where we're doing this for TV, for money, but at the same time, we don't want to mess up the integrity of college football. I think there's a balance that you can find. I think there's a medium that you can find. But if you just totally have the Pac-12 collapse, I mean, help them. Help them get their stuff together. And keeping it PG here. Help them get their stuff together so that they can emerge as a legitimate conference again. TV contracts, who gets the money, who doesn't get the money, whatever the case may be, or if they incurred a penalty that we're not being made aware of as to why they're dealing with it. I don't get how you can do this. And now it's like, they're leaving. These teams are leaving. UCLA and USC are leaving. Now we need to pull teams from other conferences. Well, you can't pull the teams from the conferences because they have contracts with their current conferences. And if they leave, they incur multiple millions of dollars in penalties. I've been saying for the longest time that San Diego State, my alma mater, should have been in the Pac-12 years ago. They're already right there in the conference years ago, but it's like the Pac-12 didn't want them, so they had to settle for the Mountain West. Now they can't get out of the Mountain West even if they wanted to without a $32 million penalty. They're not going to do that. And, excuse me, getting this out of my eye here. But why would they do that? Why would they get incur a penalty just to go to a failing conference. Now, the Mountain West is not one of the Power 5 conferences, but it's in better shape than the Pac-12 is. So it doesn't make sense for San Diego State to leave. For what? But if you'd have had teams in the Pac-12 that should have been in the Pac-12, you wouldn't have had this problem. Back in the day when, you see that Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes are going back to the Big 12, well, they never should have been part of the Pac-12 in the first place. Neither should have Utah. They never should have been part of the Pac-12 in the first place. I'm like, you have San Diego State right there. You could have picked up San Diego State. You could have picked up San Jose State. And those would have been your two teams back when they did incorporate Utah and Colorado into the Pac-12. You should have picked up San Diego State. You should have picked up San Jose State. You could have kept it in California on the West Coast, or you could have gone after another Division I school that's on the West Coast, that's much closer, but yet you're going to reach that far eastward? It doesn't make any sense. You telling me from Utah westward, you couldn't have found another Division I team? You could have, even the Idaho Vandals are a Division I football team, and they could have been part of the Pac-12. So what are you doing? You messed yourself up. Right then when that happened, I was like, they're messing themselves up. They're destroying it. I get it, like in the NFL, you've got the Chiefs and the Raiders that are part of the AFC West. I don't agree with that either, but the whole thing about the distance and stuff like that, they've made adjustments before for divisions to make them more geographically correct. I don't see why you can't do the same thing. The Seahawks used to be in the AFC West, now they're part of the NFC West, and they made that adjustment. Adjustments can be made, but the powers that be and who's got whose hand and whose pocket, that's always a conflict. So I get that. There's always a business conflict to making things the way that they should be. There's always a business interest to keeping things the way that they are or moving things the way that they should be. So that's why a lot of times things don't happen that should happen, and things that shouldn't happen do happen. That's how it is. That's how it is with business. That's how it is with money. When it comes to any type of organization, and sports is no different. But you go so the Pac-12 is crumbling. You can't get other teams to recruit because they'll incur multiple $1 million of penalties for leaving the conferences that they're currently in. And so now you're going to have the Big Ten and the SEC with all the legitimate teams. So you already know that pretty much everybody from who gets into the college football playoff that is now also expanding. I was good with the 4 teams. I was good with it. Now they're going to expand it even larger to 12. I'm like, 12? 12? Not even going to 8. I was like, okay, well, 4. So the championship game is 2. The college football playoff is 4. So now you bump it up. You double the number. Now you go to 8. We're going to go to 12. Oh, you're inviting more mediocrity into college football when it comes to the playoffs and the championship for the sake of money contracts. So it's like now it doesn't even matter who watches the game. It doesn't even matter if the crowd at the stadium is packed. And yes, college football fans will travel, but they're not going to be packed every single game with everybody who's going to be part of the playoffs. They can do all the camera angle switching that they want to. It's not going to be a packed house for every football game of the college football playoff when they're expanding. Because not that many people care in every single college or university care about their team going there. So, but now because of TV contracts and the money that's involved, they don't even need the fans to be there. They don't even care. So, I think, I just don't like the way that college football is taking a turn. I'm still going to cover college football, like I said, a little bit here, a little bit there. It's going to be mostly NFL here, guys, and ladies, but I just don't like the way college football is going. It's like, what? you're tearing down. Like I said, you have to have a balance. I get it's not all just pure football, pure college football, but it can't be all business either. When you do that, you destroy what the game is supposed to be. I like different regions, and every now and then they meet up for an out of conference game or something like that. But I like different regions being a part of their conferences, and then you come together at the end for playoffs and whatnot. But now they're melting everybody into the same pot. So UCLA and USC are going to lead the Pac-12. I wouldn't be surprised if Washington and Washington State, and then Oregon and Oregon State, and then pretty much you're left with pretty much nothing. So yeah, I don't get it. But once again, this is Devaluing with Scout Team Sports. I appreciate all of you who are watching and are going to watch. Like I said, this is the first one. We'll get things more grounded as we revamp with being now on YouTube and being live here. Like I said, this is my first live stream. So if things are not correct or as they should be, if you could be patient with me, I'd appreciate any thing that would help in terms of making it better. So leave your comments and whatnot in terms of helping to improve. Be respectful, because I don't want to have to deal with taking down comments and whatnot. Don't make me have to do that. I'll just shut the comments off if I don't feel like dealing with it. I really will. But I don't want it to be like that. I want it to be, how we interact and we talk sports and whatnot. Keep things respectful amongst each other in the comments. Keep things respectful towards me, because you don't have to be here. But I welcome everybody who wants to talk sports and wants to be here. But yeah, it's been mostly NFL. Like I said, we're going to get more into as the weeks go by with preseason, and then get into the regular season. We're going to be knee deep in the NFL, especially when it will be every Saturday. Phone calls coming through while I'm trying to broadcast. So I'm struggle streaming here, trying to get this thing correct, but we will get things better. I appreciate everybody for watching and who will watch. Once this episode is done, you can go back and watch any part that you missed. Once again, this is Devaluing with Scout Team Sports. I appreciate everybody. Believe until you stop breathing. This, like I said, I've been doing this for 3 years, the podcast for 3 years, since May of 2020. And I'm going to keep going no matter what. So again, whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is that you're into, and you're trying to make something big or make something to where it can be something that you want to turn into a career, whatever the case is, or something you're just doing on the side for a hobby, or something you're just doing something you love to do, like I am. I've always been around sports, and I've always been like, if my playing days are over, then I'm going to be talking about them just like a lot of retired pros are doing. So yeah, again, believe until you stop breathing. I live that every day, even where I am now. Like I said, I'm relocated. Now I'm on YouTube with this podcast as opposed to just being audio on Anchor. And yeah, I'm enjoying it. Things are looking up. And I just encourage anybody, sometimes it takes time. It's not going to happen right when you want it to. But you keep pushing, work smarter and harder. People say, hard work, if you just work hard, it'll pay off. I don't agree with that. And if you work smarter, not harder, that works. But also sometimes there's going to be hard times in the work. There's going to be tough times and things, times when you don't feel like doing it, even though you love it. But I would say work smarter and harder. Combine the two. You need brains and brawn. You need smarts and intelligence, and you need stamina to do this. You need the mental power, and you need longevity. You need both. So work smarter and harder. Okay? Because if you work smarter, then your hard work will be put in the right place. And it won't be just hard work, and no results. Because I've dealt with that. Hard work, and no results. That is not necessarily a recipe for success. So work smarter and harder. I encourage everybody to do that. Again, believe till you stop breathing. This is Divine with Scout Team Sports. Like I said, we'll get better with the episodes now that we're being on YouTube and live streaming every Saturday morning. 10 a.m. Pacific time. We'll be here. So I welcome and appreciate everybody. This is Divine with Scout Team Sports. We'll see you next week.